Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
Welcome to episode 14, Currently Not Collectible Status, Temporary Relief or Hidden Trap, with your host, Evan Mack. Welcome to Tax Resolution Talk with Lance Drury, where we give taxpayers the tools to fight back and move forward. Today's topic is Currently Not Collectible Status. It sounds like a safe harbor, but is it? We'll walk through what CNC status really means, who qualifies, and the traps taxpayers often don't see coming. Welcome back, kind sir.
How are you, Evan? It's good again to see
Oh,
you.
listen, I'm hanging in there. Listen, real quick. What's the greatest fictional lawyer of all time, in your opinion? Who's the greatest fictional character lawyer ever?
Probably Atticus Finch.
Really? I did not see that one coming. I was thinking, I'm a Matlock guy. My father was a Perry Mason guy, but that I did not see coming.
Well, I got to tell you, I never watched lawyer shows because they're so.
You never watch You don't watch Matlock?
No, they're so unrealistic. He shows up at the scene of the crime. That never happens.
That's so true. As we get down to it, first question: What does currently not collectible status mean, and how does it differ from other IRS resolution options like installment agreements or offers in compromise?
Well, it differs from other types of agreements in that you never pay a dime of it back while you're in currently non-collectible status. They place you in that status when you can prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that it would be a financial hardship on you to have to pay any of the amounts back. Now, generally, it can be temporary, but things fall through the cracks. They're a bureaucracy. So once you place somebody in there, particularly if they're on a fixed income, they may stay in there forever. But what we are now finding out within the last 2 years is they're bringing people out of currently non-collectible status for no reason. Normally, it's triggered when they see that you've made a lot of money or you're reporting more income on your tax return. But now, and we don't know why they're doing that. And the thing is that once we can get you into currently non-collectible status, our services are concluded. It's a resolution. So people sometimes have to hire me again to get them back into currently non-collectible status. Because the IRS, like I said, for no reason is taking people out of that status, and we haven't been able to figure out why. If anybody knows the reason why, please get a hold of me and let me know.
So who typically qualifies for the status, the CNC status, and what kind of financial proof does the IRS require, to even grant it?
Normally, people on fixed incomes, older people who are just their only income is Social Security, they're going to be great candidates for currently non-collectible because a lot of those people, there's no money left over at the end of the month once they pay the bills. So it's mostly those type of people. Now, we try not, if you're currently unemployed, we know you're going to go back to work. We'll delay the case until you go back to work, because if we get you into currently non-collectible status, then you're just going to have to hire us again down the road when you start making money to get you set up on some type of installment agreement so that we don't have to charge people more than once. We normally delay that when we know their unemployment status is just temporary. But it's great because the IRS is not going to wipe out your bank account. They're not going to take any of your wages. They're not going to garnish 15% of your Social Security. They're going to leave you alone because you have proven to them that it would be a financial hardship to pay anything back to the IRS.
So is CNC a long-term solution, or is it like a short-term? What happens if your financial situation changes? What happens if something happens like that?
Right. It can be temporary, but it can be a long-term solution as well. Like I said, if you're just temporary unemployed, you're 40 years old, you're going to go back to work.
Right.
Then it's a temporary solution. But if you're older, you're on a fixed income, or you're on disability, then it can potentially be a long-term solution to your tax problems. So it just varies upon the financial status that you're in, what your income is, how old you are, things of that nature, trigger whether it's a temporary resolution or if it can be a permanent resolution.
Would you ever recommend that to somebody before them even considering it? Would you kind of like present them with this kind of information, or would you think they have to seek it out first?
No, we would recommend that, but here's what we tell them now. We're going to give you an option. We can get you into currently non-collectible status, but for whatever reason, you may come out of that status in 6 months, a year, 2 years. So the odds of you, we could also set you up on like a $50 a month payment to the IRS. And the odds of you ever having to change that are a lot less than if we get you into currently non-collectible status. So we'll give them those options and let them decide which one they would prefer for us to gain as a resolution for them.
I know it's human nature, and we always want to know what's the catch. We always want to know what's the catch. So are there risk involved or downsides that taxpayers often overlook when they seek that CNC status?
Well, it's primarily the one that I've already talked about, is that it can just be a temporary resolutions. However, if you're 70 years old, you're on fixed income, you have no plans to go back to work, then it's a long-term solution for you. But if you're much younger, you're going to go back to work, then it may not be something you want to pursue. You probably want to wait to get a resolution when you have a job, and then we can see what is your ability and how much can you pay back to the IRS from the income you're going to generate.
This is kind of a sidebar question, but yeah, the whole practice of the IRS, in general, do you believe, like, why do you feel it's so difficult when there's so many things you don't know, so many ins and outs of as far as so many different aspects of this IRS thing that we don't fully understand? What do you think that system? Do you like the system? Is what I'm trying to say. Is this the best system possible? Is it flawed, or does it make sense after you kind of get the language down?
Well, the language, that's not a problem. Here's the problem. They're not properly trained. They're understaffed. So you get people on the telephone line that don't know what they're talking about. Now, I know that. My attorneys know that because this is all we do. But you get somebody who thinks they can do this on their own. They're not going to know whether that person's telling them what's correct or not. And so the biggest problem with the IRS right now is, everybody wants to defund the IRS. They don't want them coming after them. But guess what? When they're shorthanded and they have a problem, then they complain about the service. And I've never seen the service so poor. It takes forever to get certain things resolved. You filed an amended tax return, it can take years for that amended tax return to process. And so that's the catch-22. You say you don't want the IRS to be funded, but then when the time comes, you have a problem with them, you're not going to get served. I mean, things are very slow at the IRS. It's just how it is. It's the new reality. There's 26 million delinquent taxpayers.
Wow.
In the year 2032, there's going to be 35 million delinquent taxpayers. I think I have some job security here. It's just a guess, but I think I'll be okay for a while.
I think you'll be all right.
Because it's only going to get worse. I mean, and, Trump's probably going to cut back a lot of the funding that went through in the Biden years. Now, we're still going to have a lot of clients. We have more than 1,000 clients at any one time right now. But the smaller guys, they're the ones who are going to get hurt. And there's a lot of those small practitioners. We have 16 employees, but there's a lot of people that do this. They do it all on their own. They just do everything. And those are the ones that are going to get hit because we do a lot of marketing. You can be the greatest guy in the world, but if nobody knows about you, you're not going to have any business. So we do a lot of marketing in St. Louis and Nashville and San Antonio. And we do a lot of podcasts now. So we're only going to do more video marketing because that's where it's at. That's what people watch now. And so we're going to continue to do all that to get the word out there so people get treated fairly by the IRS.
Back to giving people information on CNC, how does that CNC status impact, interest penalties and the overall growth of someone's tax debt during that period?
Well, the penalties and the interest are going to continue to accrue. You know, the IRS considers that tax bet to be like a loan to you. And so your bank's going to charge interest and the IRS is going to charge penalties and interest. And I got to tell you, their penalties and interest are so high, they double every 7 3/4 years. I told somebody this morning, I said, you know, they thought they owed 100 to 150,000. I said, well, you got to realize this is old debt. The penalties and interest are going to be astronomical. If you and I charge the kind of interest and penalties that the IRS charge, we'd be in the federal clink. That's just how bad it is. I mean, it's you know, the state of Missouri is not nearly as bad, but the IRS penalties and interest. Now, here's the good thing. Once you get an agreement with the IRS, the penalties for failure to pay are cut in half. The interest continues to accrue at the same rate. It's tied to the prime rate. I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly what it is, but it's probably close to 3% just for the interest. That's not counting the penalties, which are about the same, but it's 0.05% per month before you have an agreement. It goes down to 1/4% once you get an agreement set up with the IRS, so it's cut in half on the penalties.
You touched on it a little bit, but can the IRS still place liens or take other collection-related actions while someone is in a CNC status?
Absolutely. And if you don't have a lien on you at the time you secure currently non-collectible for your client, they are going to slap a lien on at that time. Now, the good news is the lien doesn't last forever because the IRS doesn't have forever to collect the tax. Historically, the lien was supposed to be removed 6 to 9 months prior to the expiration of the collection statute. But they're so screwed up right now that a lot of times people have to hire me just to remove the lien because the IRS isn't always going to file a formal release of lien. And they shouldn't have to. But I got to tell you, these title companies are so scared of the IRS. They're making people pay off liens when they sell their homes that don't even attach to the property.
Wow.
There's a business lien and they want to sell the house and it's in their personal name. They're making them satisfy the business lien. And the other thing is they're making their clients get a formal written release, even though it says on the lien, this is the last day to collect. That's not good enough for the title companies now. So we have to be hired by people to go through the written process and to get a formal release of lien to satisfy these title companies.
You have different experience in different states, when it comes to the IRS or different things that you do. Is there a state that's better than the other state? I know it's state by state, but is there one place better than the other when it comes to this kind of stuff or not?
Well, in terms of state tax debt, every state is different. But in terms of the IRS, and this is the beauty of it, it's all the same because it's federal law. So it doesn't matter. I get people out of New York. I get people out of California, even though we don't advertise there. I got a guy hired me out of Yonkers, New York, because he talked to a guy who hired me several years ago. And just based on his conversation with that guy, he's hired my firm to do all of his tax work. So yeah, we can, that's the beauty of it, is that we theoretically can go into all 50 states and represent people before the IRS. The rules are the same, the procedures are the same. And so that's one of the good things about doing this work. There's not a whole lot of people that want to do this. Most 1% of lawyers do this, if that many, maybe 3% of accountants. And
Wow.
Most of them just dabble in it. And so it's a niche. And so you're able to charge accordingly because we're very much in demand. People are scared to death of dealing with the IRS on their own. They're probably the most terrifying agency in the federal arsenal. And some of the things that they do to people, it's just outlandish. And so you do need professional help in this area if you want to get the best possible results from the IRS.
And finally, what's your advice for taxpayers who've been told, just go CNC? Is that ever good advice without a full strategy before they come approach you? What would you tell those people that are just like, oh, just do that. That's all good.
Oh, no. Obviously, you want to have a strategy and you have to spend 5 to 10 hours before you can decide, here's where my client's at. Here's the best way to solve their problem. And the CNC, the currently non-collectible status, is a viable approach. But again, it differs from person to person, depending on their age, their income, whether or not they're going to work again. Are they on disability? So you got to look at all those options before you decide what's the best way to solve your client's problem.
Now, CNC status might stop collections, but it doesn't erase debts. If you're struggling with the IRS and looking for breathing room, talk to a tax attorney who can help you use CNC strategically, not as a dead end. The Lance Drury Law Firm is here to help you plan your next step. Visit LanceDruryLawFirm.com, LanceDruryLaw.com to schedule your free consultation today. Mr. Drury, sir, it's been a pleasure, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Evan. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.